Welcome to our deep dive into Bill Bryson's Oxort, a short history of nearly everything.
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
This book, man, it's a real gem.
Yeah.
It tries to explain, well,
Nearly
yeah,
everything.
nearly everything, from the Big Bang to the rise of civilization,
It's
in a
amazing.
way that's both funny and surprisingly easy to understand.
It really is.
We're going to,
Journey through time.
yeah, journey through time together.
Yeah.
And you're going to be amazed by some of the stories and discoveries we unpack along the way. Like, did you know that the first dinosaur bone found in America was completely overlooked?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's fascinating.
it's crazy. Or that for the longest time, we had some pretty wacky ideas about how to figure out the Earth's weight.
Yeah, like how would they even?
We'll get to that.
Okay, great. Don't worry.
Sounds good. I'm
I
excited.
did it first.
What Bryson does so brilliantly is weave together all these different fields, cosmology, geology, paleontology, you name it, to show how they're all connected.
He really emphasizes that to understand our place in the universe, we need to understand the history of the universe itself.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning, the Big Bang. I mean, imagine a universe with absolutely nothing in it. No stars, no planets, not even space itself.
Right.
And then, boom,
Right.
the Big Bang happens. Suddenly we have trillions upon trillions of particles just popping into existence.
It's just like that.
I can't even begin to imagine what that must have been like.
It really is mind-boggling.
It's wild.
And what's even more fascinating is that if the conditions of the Big Bang had been even slightly different, we wouldn't be here.
Whoa.
If gravity was a bit stronger or the universe expanded a bit faster, stars and galaxies might never have formed, and life as we know it would be impossible.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And speaking of how we know all this, Bryson tells this amazing story about the discovery of cosmic background radiation.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, these two scientists picked up a weird hissing sound with their antenna and
Hmm.
thought it was pigeon poop messing things up.
Mm.
But it turned out to be the faint echo of the Big Bang itself.
Wow.
Who knew pigeon poop could lead to a Nobel Prize?
That's amazing.
Right.
It just goes to show that sometimes the biggest discoveries happen when we least expect them. Bryson really brings out the human side of science, with all its quirks and unexpected turns. And it reminds us that science is a process of discovery. We're constantly learning, refining our understanding, and sometimes even stumbling upon major breakthroughs by accident.
Yeah. And
Like you were saying, it makes you wonder how many other groundbreaking discoveries are just waiting out there.
exactly. Okay, so we've talked about the Big Bang, but what about our little corner of the universe? Bryson spends some time exploring the vastness of space and the mind-blowing distances between stars.
Right. He really wants us to understand just how empty space is. Those diagrams we see in school where the planets look all cozy and close together, totally inaccurate.
So if space is so vast, what are the chances of finding another planet like ours, or even another civilization?
Well, that's where the Drake equation comes in. It's a formula that attempts to calculate the probability of alien life existing out there. It considers things like the number of stars, the number of planets that could support life, and the likelihood of life actually evolving on those planets.
But even with all those factors, we still haven't found any conclusive evidence of alien life, right?
Exactly, and that's what's known as the Fermi paradox. If the universe is so big and old, and if the odds of life evolving elsewhere are at least somewhat reasonable, then why haven't we encountered any aliens yet?
It's a really intriguing question. It makes you realize just how much we still don't know about the universe.
Yeah, it's pretty humbling.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about how our own planet came to be. Bryson paints this incredible picture of early Earth. It was a fiery, molten world, constantly bombarded by asteroids and comets. Not exactly a paradise.
It's hard to imagine anything surviving in that environment, and yet somehow life emerged from that primordial chaos. And Bryson emphasizes that the formation of the moon played a crucial role in shaping Earth's destiny.
Wait, the moon? How did that happen?
The prevailing theory is that a Mars-sized object slammed into Earth billions of years ago.
Oh, wow.
The debris from that colossal collision eventually coalesced to form the moon.
Wow. Talk about a cosmic shakeup. But what does that have to do with life?
Well, the moon's gravity helps stabilize Earth's rotation and keeps our planet's tilt from wobbling too much. Without that stability, our climate would be far more chaotic. We might not even have the regular seasons that we rely on for agriculture and, well, pretty much everything else.
That's incredible. It's amazing how this seemingly random cosmic event turned out to be so crucial for life on Earth. It makes you wonder how many other seemingly insignificant events have actually shaped the course of history.
Yeah, it's like a domino effect.
Totally.
That's the beauty of science.
Yeah.
It's full of surprises and unexpected connections. And speaking of surprises, Bryson also delves into some of the early attempts to understand Earth before modern science came along.
Oh, I bet there's some good stories there.
Oh, there are?
People must have had some pretty wild ideas back then.
They did. Imagine trying to figure out the Earth's size by pacing it out, or its age by counting generations in the Bible. Those early attempts might seem amusing now, but they were driven by the same desire to understand the world that drives scientists today.
I guess sometimes you have to start somewhere, even if your methods are a bit rough around the edges. So how did we finally start getting a clearer picture of Earth's history?
Well, we met Edmund Halley, who was involved in practically every scientific pursuit imaginable. He built diving bells, mapped magnetic fields, predicted the return of a comet, and even helped Newton publish his groundbreaking work on gravity. He was a true polymath, and his contributions were instrumental in advancing our understanding of the Earth and the universe.
It's amazing how much one person can accomplish when they're that driven by curiosity.
Absolutely.
But even with brilliant minds like Halley's, there were still a lot of mysteries surrounding the Earth's history, right?
Absolutely. Figuring out the age of the Earth was a particularly challenging puzzle. Early estimates varied wildly, and there was a lot of debate about how to interpret the geological evidence. One of the biggest breakthroughs came from James Hutton, who's considered the father of geology. He was the first to really grasp the immensity of geological time, the idea that Earth's history stretches back millions, even billions of years.
So how did Hutton figure that out? Did he have some fancy tools or techniques?
Well, he was a keen observer of the natural world. He studied rock formations, erosion patterns, and the slow, gradual processes that shape the Earth's surface. He realized that these processes must have been operating for an incredibly long time to produce the landscapes we see today.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, to look at a mountain and realize that it took millions of years to form, that's a whole different way of seeing the world.
Exactly. Hutton's ideas were revolutionary, but they weren't exactly easy to understand.
Really?
He was known for being a terrible writer.
Oh, no.
Luckily, he had a friend named John Playfair who was a gifted communicator. Playfair basically translated Hutton's work into a language that other scientists could grasp.
It sounds like good science communication was just as important back then as it is today. I mean, what good is a brilliant idea if no one can understand it?
Absolutely. And speaking of communicating scientific ideas, Charles Lyell's Principles of Geology was another landmark work. Lyell built upon Hutton's ideas and really solidified the concept of uniformitarianism.
Uniformitarianism, that's a mouthful. What does it mean?
It's basically the idea that the same geological processes that are happening today, erosion, sedimentation, volcanic activity, have been shaping the Earth for millions of years. In other words, the present is the key to understanding the past.
That makes sense. But even with all these advances in geology, there was still this one big mystery: dinosaurs. How did those incredible creatures fit into the picture?
Well, the discovery of dinosaurs really shook things up. These giant, extinct reptiles challenged everything people thought they knew about the history of life.
And it's amazing to think that for a long time, people didn't even know dinosaurs existed. The first dinosaur bone found in America was completely overlooked. It's like something out of a movie. Imagine finding a giant bone and not realizing it belonged to a creature that roamed the earth millions of years ago.
It's a good reminder that even in the world of science, things aren't always what they seem. And it highlights the importance of curiosity and open-mindedness. We need to be willing to question our assumptions and be open to new possibilities.
Speaking of open-mindedness, I was reading about Mary Anning, this self-taught fossil hunter who made some incredible discoveries. She found these amazing marine reptiles like ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs that really changed our understanding of prehistoric life.
Mary Anning was a remarkable figure. She faced a lot of obstacles. She was a woman, she had limited formal education, and she came from a working-class background, but she was incredibly talented and made some of the most significant fossil discoveries of her time.
It's inspiring to see how someone with so much passion and dedication could make such a significant contribution to science. So once people started finding all these amazing dinosaur fossils, I imagine there was a lot of excitement and maybe even a bit of competition among scientists, right?
Oh, absolutely. The rivalry between Edward Cope and Othniel Marsh, two American paleontologists, became legendary. They were both brilliant scientists, but their rivalry was fierce, and they often resorted to some pretty shady tactics to try to outdo each other.
Wait, shady tactics? Like what?
They would try to steal each other's fossils, sabotage each other's digs, and even publish papers based on incomplete or inaccurate data just to get ahead.
Wow, that sounds intense. I guess even brilliant scientists can get caught up in the heat of the moment. But all that competition must have led to some amazing discoveries, right?
It did. Their rivalry, as messy as it was, actually fueled a golden age of dinosaur discovery in America. They unearthed dozens of new species and really pushed the field of paleontology forward.
So even though they were fierce rivals, they ultimately contributed to a greater understanding of dinosaurs. It's a reminder that science is often a messy, collaborative process. It's not always about lone geniuses making groundbreaking discoveries in isolation.
Exactly. And speaking of those big breakthroughs, the discovery of atoms was another game changer. It completely revolutionized our understanding of matter.
Okay, so we've gone from giant dinosaurs to tiny atoms. That's quite a jump. How did scientists even figure out that atoms existed? They're way too small to see, right?
Well, it started with John Dalton, who proposed that all matter is made up of these tiny, indivisible particles called atoms. It was a radical idea at the time, but it explained a lot of things that scientists were observing about chemical reactions and the behavior of gases.
So how did we go from this general idea of atoms to actually understanding their structure and how they interact?
That took a lot of clever experimentation and some brilliant leaps of intuition. Dmitri Mendelev's creation of the periodic table was a major breakthrough. He organized the known elements based on their properties and even predicted the existence of elements that hadn't been discovered yet.
That's incredible. It's like he was piecing together a giant puzzle, and he could see the missing pieces before anyone else even knew they existed.
Exactly. And his work laid the foundation for our modern understanding of chemistry and the building blocks of matter. But even with the periodic table, there was still this big mystery surrounding atoms. How old was Earth?
I thought we talked about that earlier. Didn't Hutton and Lyell figure that out?
They laid the groundwork, but they didn't have the tools to determine the exact age of the Earth. They knew it was incredibly old, but they couldn't put a precise number on it.
So how did we finally crack that code?
It took the discovery of radioactivity and the development of radiometric dating techniques. Willard Libby's invention of radiocarbon dating was a major breakthrough. It allowed scientists to date organic materials, like fossils and ancient artifacts, with remarkable accuracy.
That's amazing. It's like having a time machine that can tell you exactly when something lived or died.
Right. And then Claire Patterson came along and used a similar technique, but with uranium and lead isotopes to determine the age of the Earth itself. He meticulously analyzed meteorites and rocks from Earth's crust, and after years of painstaking work, he arrived at an age of 4.55 billion years.
Wow, 4.55 billion years. It's hard to even comprehend a timescale that vast. So now that we had a much clearer understanding of Earth's age, what about the story of life itself? How did all this incredible diversity of life on our planet come to be?
Well, that's where things get even more complex and fascinating. Bryson delves into the mind-boggling intricacies of life, from the way proteins fold into specific shapes to the intricate dance between DNA and proteins.
It's amazing to think that all this complexity arose from those early single-celled organisms in the primordial soup.
It really is. And Bryson emphasizes that we're still just scratching the surface when it comes to understanding the full diversity of life. He talks about the vast, unseen world of bacteria, these microscopic organisms that play a crucial role in every ecosystem on Earth.
Yeah, it's funny. Whenever I think about bacteria, I usually think about germs and getting sick. But Bryson really makes you appreciate the sheer number and diversity of these tiny creatures. He says a handful of soil contains more bacteria than there are people on Earth.
It's a humbling thought, isn't it? We tend to focus on the big, charismatic creatures, but these microscopic organisms are really running the show. And speaking of running the show, Carl Weiss's work on the 3 domains of life was a major paradigm shift.
Okay, 3 domains of life. I thought it was just plants and animals.
That's the traditional view, but Weiss's research using RNA sequencing revealed that there are actually 3 major branches of life: bacteria, archaea, and eukaryotes.
So what's the difference between those 3 domains?
Well, bacteria are the single-celled organisms we're most familiar with. Archaea are similar to bacteria in that they're also single-celled and lack a nucleus, but they have some unique biochemical features that set them apart. Eukaryotes are the domain that includes all multicellular organisms: plants, animals, fungi, and protists. We humans are eukaryotes.
So this means that archaea are actually more closely related to us than they are to bacteria. That's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. Woese's discovery really revolutionized our understanding of the tree of life and highlighted the incredible diversity of the microbial world.
It makes you realize that we're just one small twig on a vast and intricate tree of life that stretches back billions of years.
Exactly. And speaking of our place in that tree of life, Bryson also delves into the story of human evolution, those fascinating discoveries of early hominids, and the ongoing quest to understand our own origins.
This is the part I've been waiting for. I'm always fascinated by those stories about early humans, Lucy, Java Man, Neanderthals. It's like trying to piece together a giant puzzle with only a few scattered pieces.
It is. And Bryson doesn't shy away from the controversies and the gaps in our knowledge. He talks about the challenges of interpreting the fossil record, the debates about where and when modern humans evolved, and the mysteries surrounding the extinction of other hominid species like Neanderthals.
It's kind of humbling to think that we're just the latest chapter in a long and complex evolutionary story.
It is. And it makes you wonder what the next chapter will hold. What does the future hold for our species and for the planet as a whole?
Those are some big questions. Does Bryson offer any answers?
Well, he doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but he does highlight the interconnectedness of everything. He talks about the delicate balance of Earth's ecosystems, the threats posed by climate change and biodiversity loss, and the need for humans to become more responsible stewards of our planet.
It sounds like a call to action. A reminder that we're not just passive observers in this grand cosmic story, but active participants who have the power to shape the future.
Exactly. And that brings us to another important theme in the book, the fragility of life and the recurring pattern of mass extinctions throughout Earth's history.
Oh, right. I remember reading about the Permian extinction, that devastating event that wiped out nearly all life on Earth. It's hard to believe that something like that could actually happen.
It's a stark reminder that even the most robust ecosystems are vulnerable to catastrophic events. And Bryson emphasizes that we're living through another mass extinction right now, driven by human activity.
That's a sobering thought. But it also makes me wonder if life has bounced back from these devastating events in the past. Maybe it can bounce back again. Maybe there's still hope.
There is hope, but it requires us to understand the challenges we face and to take action to protect the diversity of life on Earth.
So what can we do?
Well, Bryson doesn't offer a simple checklist of solutions, but he does emphasize the importance of scientific literacy, critical thinking, and a sense of wonder and curiosity about the world around us.
It sounds like he's encouraging us to become more engaged citizens,
Mm.
to learn more about the science behind the issues we face, and to use that knowledge to make informed decisions.
Exactly, and to never lose that sense of awe and wonder that drives scientific exploration.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from the Big Bang to the rise of civilization, from dinosaurs to atoms, from mass extinctions to the fragility of life. It's been an incredible journey. But before we wrap up, I'm curious to know, what was your favorite part of the book? What really stood out to you?
That's a tough one. There are so many great stories and insights, but one thing that really resonated with me was Bryson's ability to connect the dots between seemingly disparate fields. He shows how everything is interconnected, from the tiniest subatomic particles to the vast expanse of the universe.
I agree. And he does it with such a sense of humor and wonder. It's like he's rediscovering the world right alongside the reader. It really
Yeah.
is. And speaking of discoveries, Bryson doesn't just focus on the big picture stuff. He also takes us deep inside our own bodies,
Oh, yeah.
exploring the incredible world of cells.
Right.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget that we're made up of trillions of these tiny living units, each one carrying out its own specialized tasks. Bryson describes how a single fertilized egg can develop into a complex organism with specialized tissues and organs, all thanks to the intricate dance of cells.
Yeah, I remember learning about cells in biology class, but Bryson really brings them to life.
He does.
He talks about how cells communicate with each other,
She wired
how they
him.
repair themselves,
Uh-huh.
and how they even make copies of themselves. It's like a whole hidden world operating right beneath our skin.
It really is. And the history of how we came to understand cells is just as fascinating. Bryson introduces us to Robert Hooke, who first observed cells through a microscope in the 17th century. And then there's Antonie van Leeuwenhoek, this Dutch draper who was obsessed with making lenses. He
Okay.
actually built his own microscopes and made some incredible discoveries, like observing bacteria and sperm cells for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing how these early pioneers, with their simple tools and boundless curiosity, opened up whole new realms of scientific exploration.
I know, it's really inspiring.
Totally.
And their work laid the foundation for modern biology and medicine. Speaking of which, Bryson also takes us on a fascinating journey through the history of genetics.
Oh, cool.
We learn about Gregor Mendel the monk, who figured out the basic principles of inheritance by breeding pea plants.
Uh-huh.
And then there's Thomas Hunt Morgan, who mapped genes on chromosomes using fruit flies. And of course, we can't forget the race to unravel the structure of DNA,
Yeah.
culminating in that iconic double helix model proposed by Watson and Crick.
I've always been fascinated by that story. It's like a scientific detective novel with all these brilliant minds trying to solve this ultimate puzzle of life.
It is, and Bryson captures the drama and the excitement of those discoveries. But he also reminds us that science is a human endeavor with all its complexities and imperfections. He talks about the rivalries, the ego clashes, and the missed opportunities along the way.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes even a bit of luck.
Totally.
Like the story of Rosalind Franklin, whose X-ray images of DNA were crucial for Watson and Crick's breakthrough. But she didn't receive the recognition she deserved for many years.
Right. It's sad.
It is.
It's a reminder that scientific progress isn't always neat and tidy. It's often messy and unpredictable, with twists and turns along the way. And sometimes the most important discoveries are made by accident or by those who are overlooked or marginalized.
It's a good lesson in humility.
Yeah.
We need to be open to new ideas, to challenge our assumptions,
Mhm.
and to recognize that we don't have all the answers.
And that's what makes science so exciting.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending journey of discovery. And Bryson's book is a wonderful invitation to join that journey. He reminds us that the world is full of wonders, from the vastness of the universe to the intricacies of our own bodies, and that there's always more to learn.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into a short history of nearly everything, what's the one big takeaway you hope listeners will walk away with?
I think Bryson's biggest message is that science is not just a collection of facts and figures. It's a way of looking at the world, a way of asking questions and seeking answers. It's about curiosity, wonder, and a sense of awe at the complexity and beauty of the universe.
And it's a journey that we can all be a part of.
Yes.
We don't need to be professional scientists to appreciate the wonders of the natural world
Yeah.
and to ask those big, thought-provoking questions.
Exactly. Bryson's book is a reminder that science is for everyone. It's about understanding our place in the universe and appreciating the incredible story of how we got here.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought from Bryson himself. He asks, considering how many species have disappeared without a trace, what does that mean for our own understanding of life's history?
Oh, wow.
How much of the story are we missing?
That's deep.
It's a reminder that our knowledge is always incomplete and that there are always more mysteries to uncover. So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never stop being curious about the world around you.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey through nearly everything.
It's been a pleasure.